are very fortunate to have with us today Willie Lubka as our guest speaker. He lives currently in Ventura County area in Thousand Oaks. He came from New Jersey and he has 2 children. He learned from his parents how to be an activist and a community organizer. He is committed to justice and liberation. And you can read there and also in our weekly e-newsletter, The Grapevine, all of the amazing things that he is involved with. And now, Willie, thank you so much for being here. I turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really grateful to be with you today, and I appreciate the invitation. And I want you to know that when I agreed to do this, it wasn't a random thing to just speak at a church. I have known and appreciated your congregation for many years. I've been in your building many times for wonderful events, and I know that UCC Simi Valley is a vital institution in our community. You provide a home for families and friends living united in diversity and support our LGBTQ sisters and brothers who often face discrimination and bigotry. These people deserve acceptance and love, which they receive at UCC Simi. As participants in the Simi Valley Interfaith Council, you are advocates for interfaith engagement, seeking to find the common values of different faith traditions, promoting acceptance and respect despite the differences, so we can all live together in greater understanding. That is a great form of leadership you bring to our community. In 2007, you took the courageous step of becoming a sanctuary congregation, welcoming a young woman and her infant son who were threatened with deportation, and you gave them shelter for 3 years until they gained legal status. You faced ugly, aggressive opposition from people in the community, and you stood strong. My church, the Unitarian Universalist congregation in the Conejo Valley, was part of the Interfaith Coalition that cared for this family. And one of our members, the late Reverend Theodora Davitt Cornyn, some of you may remember her, said the following in an article in the Ventura County Star in 2009. She said, "I've come to know and love the Simi Valley United Church of Christ congregation. They're not very large in numbers as far as some Christian churches go, but in heart and in hospitality, they are huge. They remain resolute in standing by their values, living their faith as they believe Christ would want them to live." And I have seen that for myself and have been blessed to collaborate with several of you, as well as your pastor, on a number of efforts to promote justice and compassion in Simi Valley. So I want to thank you for all the good you do in the world and say that I'm honored to be with you. So you may know me as Willie, but my given name is actually Willard. My parents gave me the name Willard in tribute to a man named Dr. Willard Uphouse, a minister and peace activist who served as the director of World Fellowship, an interfaith retreat center in New Hampshire devoted to social justice. Our family visited there many times when I was a child. When I was born in 1959, Dr. Uphouse was in jail. He had been imprisoned because he refused to disclose lists of World Fellowship guests and staff during a McCarthy-era witch hunt. So in tribute to his courage, my parents named me Willard, and that act of christening foretold the kinds of values my parents would teach and model. My mom and dad were lifelong activists committed to many causes and struggles for justice. They were heroes for me, and I've done my best to follow in their footsteps. So that's just giving you a little foreshadowing or a sense of where I'm coming from. I am going to address a topic today that I expect we're all thinking about. What does the pathway look like to establishing a new normal in the future? My thoughts are influenced by words from the writer Drew Dellinger from a poem he wrote called Hieroglyphic Stairway. It's 3:23 in the morning and I am awake because my great-great-grandchildren won't let me sleep. My great-great-grandchildren ask me in dreams, what did you do while the planet was plundered? What did you do when the earth was unraveling? Surely you did something when the seasons started failing, as the mammals, reptiles, and birds were all dying. Did you fill the streets with protest when democracy was stolen? What did you do once you knew? Those words haunt me as I visualize my great-great-grandchildren visiting me from the future and asking me, what did I do? So before I go on, I'm going to make some disclaimers. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert. I'm not going to talk about face masks or hand sanitizer. I'm speaking today from my heart as a community member, a person of faith, and a father. I have been pondering what can I do and what should I do to make a difference as we live through this pandemic. The foundation of my comments is the principle of stewardship, which I strive to make a foundation of my life. In churches, the word stewardship is often seen as a euphemism for money stuff. But anyone who has served on a stewardship committee knows the meaning of stewardship is much deeper. Stewardship means responsibility, taking care of something or someone, looking out for the well-being of others. It's a word for maturity. So the question, my friends, as we ponder our journey to what is going to be normal in the future, is how to be a good steward. One thing I can tell you for sure is that I do not want to return to what was normal before the pandemic. The idea of let's get back to normal reminds me of the phrase, make America great again. Both of these statements are looking backward, and both statements beg a critical question. Let's get back to what was normal for who? Or let's make America great again for who? Going back to what normalcy or a condition of supposed greatness at some point in time in the past might sound wonderful for the rich, the privileged, and the white. But going back to a time in the past has different implications for everyone else. I do not want to go back to what was regarded as normal before coronavirus. Returning to that normal would mean returning to a much older virus, the virus of racism. The virus of racism is deadly to people of color and is a poison that sickens and dehumanizes everyone. People of color in our country have endured hundreds of years of trauma, which continues today. This cannot be normal. In 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. wrote, "There are certain things in our nation and in the world about which I am proud to be maladjusted, and which I hope all people of goodwill will be maladjusted. I say very honestly that I never intend to become adjusted to segregation and discrimination. I never intend to become adjusted to religious bigotry. I never intend to adjust myself to economic conditions that will take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few, leave millions of God's children smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society. I want to be part of a movement to create a new normal where we overcome racism with justice and equity for all people. A great awakening to racial injustice has been happening since the killing of George Floyd. I believe the United States is at a turning point that is long overdue. People have decided it's time to finally do something about dismantling the structures of racism. A powerful shift is happening that includes white people, and we can thank the tireless efforts and leadership of people of color for this change. People of all races and faiths are coming together to say enough. Racist systems and racism are being called out. Accountability is being demanded. This movement is not just happening out there across the country. It's happening right here in Simi Valley, energized by brilliant young people. I have been working to support the continued momentum of this historic movement toward a new normal. Another dimension of the old normal is the reality of inequities in the distribution of resources among the people of the world, where billions face the harsh deprivations of poverty, lack of access to a living wage, and suffer from war, violence, and forced migration. Inequality has been increasing. The richest have been accumulating more wealth and more power, while the 99% are left behind. I don't know how people of good faith and goodwill can go about our daily lives while so many suffer and accept that as normal. I want to see our understanding of what is normal be transformed to where we recognize that the real definition of greatness is society's ability to meet the needs of all God's children around the world. Returning to what was normal before the pandemic would mean continuing on a course where climate change was being ignored by our nation's leaders. While sea levels rise, ice caps melt, fires and storms get worse and worse, species go extinct, and indigenous populations become environmental refugees. We cannot accept a status quo where the clock keeps ticking toward environmental catastrophe without a global effort that includes the United States to save Mother Earth. I dream of a new normal where we respond to Greta Thunberg. She says, to get out of the climate crisis, we need a different mindset from the one that got us into it. The new mindset we need is the mindset of stewardship. None of us know how close we are to a time when a vaccine or treatment will become available that will relieve the danger and release us from all the restrictions we're living under. But regardless of that, let's not talk about returning to normal. Let's be part of a movement to transcend the old normal, rescue our planet, prioritize the needs of the human family, and provide a sustainable civilization for future generations. I believe this course is necessary and that it's going to require changing assumptions about our standards of living, our habits of consumption, and capitalist market economies. So you might be thinking, sounds good. I hope the UN and world governments will get to work on that. But there isn't much I can do. And that is the key. There may not be much I can do. But what each of us can do adds up when we all do what we can. What each of us does matters, even if it's just on the local level. The slogan, think globally, act locally, is right. It will ultimately be up to the public, the masses, and not the politicians, to decide what the new normal will be. The public means us. I'm encouraging everyone to use this time of social distancing to imagine, to envision, to talk about, to take ownership, and to dream of what normal will be. Langston Hughes wrote, "Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly." My friends, this is not a time for a casual faith. It's a time for a faith that is all in, grounded in love. It's time to respond to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who admonished us to fight for the things you care about. How will we answer to our great-great-grandchildren who want to know, what did we do? May each of us be a steward of the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Amen.